Atlantic cocaine route exposed as Irish forces smash major drug operation. Jerusalem bus stop attack leaves 6 dead, sparks security clampdown. A fugitive father shot dead in New Zealand after 4-year manhunt with children. Nepal erupts as Gen Z protests turn deadly over social media ban and corruption. Good afternoon. Welcome to Around the World in 30 minutes on Politics and Business Television. I'm Fatima Abubakar Oyibo. Many thanks for joining us. A massive drug bust in the Irish Sea has exposed the scale and complexity of trafficking along what authorities are calling the Atlantic's cocaine superhighway. Irish forces intercepted a cargo ship carrying over 2.2 tons of cocaine bound for the UK and Europe, leading to the arrest and conviction of 8 men now serving a combined 129 years in prison. Despite the success, European law enforcement agencies admit they are struggling to contain the surge in cocaine shipments from South America. Officials say hundreds of vessels suspected of drug trafficking cross the Atlantic each year, but limited naval resources mean many go unchallenged. Smugglers are increasingly using at-sea drop-offs, transferring drugs from large mother ships to smaller boats for covert delivery. Ireland, with its vast and rugged coastline, has become a key target for cartels seeking alternative routes into Europe. Security experts warn that the country's limited defense capabilities leave its waters vulnerable, describing the situation as a wild west for traffickers. Authorities are calling for urgent reinforcements to combat the growing threat and protective European borders. Gaza under siege, as Israeli forces have ordered the evacuation of yet another high-rise building in Gaza City, marking the 4th tower targeted in recent days. The move comes as a part of an intensified military campaign aimed at seizing control of Gaza's largest urban center. Residents were given limited time to flee before the building was bombed, adding to growing panic and displacement across the enclave. The Israeli military claims the towers are being used by Hamas for surveillance and operational planning, though Palestinian officials and humanitarian groups dispute the allegations, calling the strike a deliberate effort to destroy civilian infrastructure and force mass evacuations. Over 50 high-rise buildings have now been reduced to rubble since the offensive began. As the bombardment continues, international pressure mounts on Israel to halt the destruction and protect civilians. Aid agencies warn that the humanitarian situation is deteriorating rapidly, with thousands of families losing shelter and nowhere left to run. The UN and other global bodies are calling for restraint and immediate access to humanitarian corridors. In a rare wartime ruling, Israel's Supreme Court has declared that the government is depriving Palestinian prisoners of adequate food, violating their basic rights. The unanimous decision came after human rights groups alleged that detainees were being denied over minimum subsistence during the ongoing war in Gaza. The court ordered authorities to immediately improve food quantity and quality in detention facilities, emphasizing that prisoners must receive 3 meals a day to meet basic survival standards. The ruling follows the reports of overcrowding, malnutrition and deaths in custody, including a 17-year-old who allegedly died of starvation earlier this year. Despite the ruling, Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has vowed to maintain what he calls bare minimum conditions. Right groups are urging swift implementation of the court's decision, warning that continued neglect could amount to systematic abuse. You're still watching Around the World in 30 minutes on Politics and Business Television. Still to come, fugitive father shot dead in New Zealand after 4-year manhunt with children. Details of the story and more to come after the short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. A dramatic end to one of New Zealand's most gripping manhunts. Tom Phillips, a father who vanished into the wilderness with his 3 children nearly 4 years ago, was fatally shot by police early Monday. Authorities say Phillips opened fire during a confrontation following a burglary in the rural town of Piopio, critically injuring an officer before being shot dead at the scene. One of his children was found with him during the incident, while the other 2 were located hours later at a remote campsite. All 3 children, aged between 9 and 12, were unharmed, are now in protective custody. Police say their priority is ensuring the children's safety and well-being after years without access to formal education or healthcare. The case, dubbed the Maricopa Mystery, had captivated the nation since Phillips disappeared in 2021 amid a custody dispute. Officials believe he survived off-grid with help from sympathizers. The children's mother expressed relief that the ordeal is over, saying they've been missed every day and will be welcomed home with love and care. Meanwhile, tensions continue to escalate in the Middle East as violence surges across both East Jerusalem and Gaza. In a deadly attack Monday morning, 6 people were killed and several others injured when 2 gunmen opened fire at a crowded bus to stop near Ramoth Junction in East Jerusalem. Israeli police say the attackers were swiftly neutralized by a security officer and a civilian at the scene. For now, Israeli forces have intensified their military campaign in Gaza, with reports confirming at least 40 Palestinians killed in overnight airstrikes. The strikes targeted residential areas in Gaza City, adding to the growing death toll and deepening the humanitarian crisis in the region. The latest wave of violence has drawn international condemnation and renewed calls for a ceasefire as both sides brace for further escalation. Global leaders are urging restraint and a return to dialogue to prevent further loss of life. Violent protests have swept across Nepal as thousands of Gen Z demonstrators took to the streets, outraged about a sweeping government ban on 26 social media platforms. At least 14 people have been killed and dozens injured in clashes with security forces as tensions boiled over in Kathmandu and other major cities. The unrest was sparked by growing frustration over corruption and the government's crackdown on digital platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and X. Protesters stormed restricted zones near Parliament, prompting police to respond with tear gas, rubber bullets, and live ammunition. Authorities have imposed curfews and deployed the army to restore order. Officials say the ban targets unregistered platforms accused of spreading disinformation and fraud, but critics argue it's a dangerous step towards authoritarianism. Young Nepalis, many in school uniforms, marched with placards demanding transparency and digital freedom, chanting slogans like "Unban social media" and "Shut down corruption, not connection." France's Prime Minister Francois Bayrou is fighting for political survival as Parliament prepares to vote on his austerity budget, a move that could bring down his fragile government. Bayrou stunned allies by calling the confidence vote himself, describing it as a moment of truth for the nation. If he loses, he and his entire cabinet will be forced to resign, plunging France into fresh political turmoil. The vote follows months of deadlock over Bayrou's proposed €44 billion in spending cuts aimed at reducing the country's soaring deficit. Opposition parties across the spectrum have vowed to vote against him, making defeat highly likely. If ousted, Bayrou would become the second prime minister to fall in less than a year, leaving the President Emmanuel Macron scrambling to appoint a successor. Analysts warn that the collapse of Bayrou's government could deepen France's economic instability and shake investor confidence. With mass protests already planned with Macron's approval ratings at a record lows, the outcome of today's vote could reshape the country's political landscape. And that wraps up the program. But before we go, the headlines again. Atlantic cocaine route exposed as Irish forces smash major drug operation. Jerusalem bus stop attack leaves 6 dead, spark security clampdown. And fugitive father shot dead in New Zealand after 4-year manhunt with children. Finally, Nepal erupts as Gen Z protests turn deadly over social media ban and corruption. From me, Fatima Abubakar Oyibo, to have a lovely day and bye for now.